There are some weapons that just don't belong in our neighborhoods in peacetime in America.
In a social experiment conducted by CNN in 2016, a 13-year-old who was undoubtedly a child was denied when trying to purchase beer, cigarettes, adult magazines, and lottery tickets, but was able to successfully, easily, and legally buy a .22 caliber rifle at a gun show from a private seller. The ease with which he purchased the gun as a teenager, who in the eyes of the workers that declined his attempts clearly looked like a child, reveals the fatal flaw in the gun industry system, which allows dangerous transactions like these to continue to occur in the US today.
Well, I think we're at a time in our history where we need to relook and reevaluate the way we have protections against gun violence in this country.
Although there are already many guns in the possession of those with wrong intentions, this shouldn't stop us from trying to prevent further misuse of guns. Therefore, our vision for 2020 is for the US government to sponsor legislation that restricts or eliminates sales at gun shows, because the Gun Control Act of 1968 and the Brady Bill have loopholes that allow unlicensed dealers to not require background checks and to sell to anyone of any age. A gun show is an event where dealers display guns on tables and customers have a chance to purchase different modern firearms. Most purchases require background checks, however, some don't because of the Brady Bill and the Gun Control Act of 1968. The Brady Bill is an act signed by Bill Clinton that requires licensed dealers to perform background checks when selling different firearms. The Gun Control Act of 1968 requires anyone who sells guns to have a federal firearms license and to keep a record of their sales. But there is a loophole that allows prohibited purchasers to avoid said background checks and purchase guns from unlicensed dealers.
And the gun show loophole just casually means that people can buy a gun from someone who's not a federally licensed gun dealer.
Yes.
Can I just walk out with it if I give you the money?
If you give me the money and show me your driver's license to prove that you are a Maryland resident, I could sell it to you. I would ask you one simple question. Are you a convicted felon, or is there any reason legally that you could not own that gun?
And I say to you, no reason whatsoever.
No reason whatsoever, then I would sell it to you, and at the same token, you could lie to me, couldn't you?
The National Association of Arms estimates that there are 5,200 gun shows in the U.S. annually, meaning that there are 5,200 chances for unlicensed dealers and buyers to legally acquire guns without background checks or age restrictions, allowing potentially dangerous individuals to be able to obtain guns.
A person can be completely reasonable, seem reasonable, have nothing in their background to indicate that they have criminal intent or that they're a bad person, and still end up becoming a bad person who does a terrible thing. But we should at least try, and the chances that we will have a mass shooting are lower because we have put rules in place that we feel will help to keep these kinds of events from happening.
According to Time magazine, about 22% of gun owners in the United States report obtaining their most recent firearm in the last 2 years without a background check, which means millions of guns are exchanged this way each year. So let's break this down. An estimated 30% of US adults own a gun. There are 99,072,168 gun owners in the US, and 22% of them obtain their guns without a background check. That means that 21,795,877 gun owners who might possibly be mentally ill or have bad intentions can use the gun to do whatever they want, whether it be suicide or a mass shooting.
I don't think anything's going to be accepted by pro-gun activists, and I think we've seen that sort of on the national level. But I think we also have to recognize that pro-gun activists are extremely loud, but very small majority. They don't really represent, I think, most of what most Americans feel about guns.
In these clips, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi and Senator John Cornyn emphasize the importance of a stricter legislation regarding background checks and gun violence.
And 90% of the American people, Democrats, Republicans, gun owners, NRA members, independents, support this legislation.
Had that legislation passed sooner, it could have prevented the Sutherland Springs gunman from acquiring his weapon in the first place by lying on his background check system.
So, Why is it so important for private sales to be strictly regulated and for unlicensed purchases to be monitored? Because if we allow things like that to be ignored, people will get hurt. But knowing what they did in the past, what crimes the purchaser committed, or if they are mentally unstable is very important and contributes to the restriction or even the elimination of sales at gun shows. This decreases the risk of people from buying dangerous weapons of war and using it for the wrong purpose. The citizens of America may have a right to bear arms as guaranteed by the Second Amendment, but it doesn't justify the weakening of our safety as the people of America, as promised by the Constitution. Therefore, it's extremely vital for the U.S. to sponsor legislation that would restrict or eliminate sales at gun shows. Until then, we will continue to fight for what we believe in. So next time, fear won't leave us wondering whether the sound we heard was a firework or a gunshot.